Today we're going to go over a basic outline for writing your persuasive essay. Okay, a strong persuasive essay is going to be composed of 5 main sections. Your introduction, then 3 sections, each one containing the elements of each of your 3 main supporting points for your thesis, and then a conclusion. Okay, let's talk about your introduction. What makes a good introduction? That second bullet point is the most important thing that needs to go into your introduction. Your position or your thesis statement, right? What is this essay about? What are you going to be arguing for or against? What you can precede your thesis statement with in a persuasive essay, but you do not have to, is some sort of hook or attention getter. And we will get to that in the next slide in terms of what makes a good hook or attention getter. But if you have something, you can start your essay with a hook or attention getter, then you present your thesis, and then you do a very brief overview of your 3 main points. Okay, the attention getting techniques or the hook. What are ways that you can start your essay off with some sort of hook? You can ask a question, right? Let's take the example of Hope House, the argument that the winning group, the organization that the winning group made an argument for me giving money to when we were talking about ethos, pathos, and logos towards the beginning of the semester. How would they have started their argument? By asking a question? Maybe something like, did you know that X% of teens in the United States are moms? Something like a question that begins the conversation. You could start your essay with a quotation, right? Something maybe a direct quote from one of your main sources that you're going to use to back up your thesis, or maybe even something separate, just if it's a well-known quotation that's relevant to the subject, something that speaks to the matter at hand. An anecdote, right? That could be a personal story. Let's say in the case of Hope House, you were a teen mom and you had been helped by an organization like that. You could start with a story, a brief line or two about yourself and how an organization like Hope House had helped you. You just have to remember in this that you're writing a persuasive essay and not a narrative, so you want to make sure that you stay on point and you keep it brief. You don't want to go into a long story. You could start with a startling fact or statistic, which I kind of combined that when I gave you my example of asking a question. And instead of saying, did you know, you could start with something like, just the facts, right? X% of teens become mothers. Or you could come up with an imaginative scenario, right? Sort of along the lines of, it could be this similar story as like a personal story, but you make it up. So who knows? Make up a story similar to the woman, the young woman that Janelle on the Hope House website, that the group in our class who had talked about her, come up with a story, make up a story about a young teen mom. Those are just some different ways that you can start your essay. Next comes your thesis. And what is your thesis? It is a clearly worded statement telling your readers exactly what you intend to do in the essay. You should all have strong theses by now. If you have presented something to me, I have given you feedback on what you submitted via Canvas and should have your thesis well written by this point. We will finish that off when we meet on our one-on-one meetings this week. And finally, your preview of your main points. If you're going to do this in the introduction, you're just going to briefly state the main points that are going to be argued in the essay. You're not going to develop them. You're just going to summarize them in as few words as possible. Okay, your body paragraphs. That's everything that comes in between your introduction and your conclusion. So each body paragraph should focus on one argument called the main point. This is the instruction if you were to really keep this to 5 paragraphs. But as I said in the beginning, remember, in a 5 to 7 page college level persuasive essay, it's likely going to take you more than 1 paragraph to effectively explore each of your main points. Okay, so you can organize your paragraphs according to subpoints. And remember, it's possible to write a successful persuasive essay with fewer or more than 3 main points, but I would stick to those 3 main points. Like I said, each main point may take more than one paragraph to explore, but you don't want less than 3 main points because then you don't really have enough evidence to support your thesis, and you don't necessarily want more than 3 points because then you're talking about a much more sophisticated, longer piece than you really should be able to get into 5 or to 7 pages. And the power of 3, this is just, why 3? What is it about 3 that helps with supporting evidence to prove your argument? It's just this writing principle used in marketing and PR, and it suggests that things that come in 3s are funnier, more satisfying, and more effective than any other number of things. It's just one of those things that they've researched. Readers are more likely to remember the information when it comes in 3s. Examples: the 3 little pigs, the 3 musketeers, or phrases with 3 words like ready, set, go, faster, stronger, higher. When you give a speech and you offer things like in Winston Churchill's, I have nothing to offer but blood, sweat, and tears, right? Stop, look, and listen. The power of 3. Okay, your main points. This is the point in many essays that I get to where people who've written really strong, clear introductions start to either wander with their thoughts, or perhaps, write something and then rewrite it. There's a lot of repetition. So this is the hard part of the essay, making sure that you stick to an organization where you have your 3 main points laid out and connected to your thesis. So that's an important thing to remember. Each of your 3 main points needs to connect to your thesis, right? Because each of your 3 main points is the proof of your thesis. Okay, so with your main points, at the beginning of each one, we're talking about, when we say body paragraph, we'll assume the first paragraph that starts your first main point. You should have the purpose of that body paragraph clearly stated, expressed in the topic sentence, okay? And then you develop and support it with logical and/or emotional arguments. Your topic sentences, they should clearly state the purpose of the paragraph. They may or may not restate your thesis or position. They should state the central argument, right? And they should be clear, direct, and upfront about your purpose. Your supporting details. These are your arguments, examples, or descriptions that justify and explain and develop your main points. And finally, your conclusion, the last paragraph. This is one paragraph. It restates your thesis and the main points of the argument, and then it may include some sort of clinching statement to end your essay with strength and resolution and to leave an impression on your reader. Here are a few ideas for clinching statements, right? This last idea in your persuasive essay. The better world technique, right? Describe the better world that will ensue if your argument is accepted. Or, sort of the opposite, the worst case scenario. Describe how terrible the world will become if your argument is not accepted. And then finally, the call to action, which is my favorite. You ask or demand that your reader take some sort of action in support of your argument. The action can be to vote a certain way. The action can be to give money, which was the action that you all asked for when you were arguing for me to give $50 to a particular nonprofit organization. The action can be as simple as to convince a friend of this point that you've become convinced of. But those make for great clinching statements. So that's it. That's my main outline for a persuasive essay. You've got these 2 pages that I have sent to you blank that you can fill out and follow along and try to create your own outline for your own essays. And I will be following up this video with 3 separate videos to address introductions, the body paragraphs, and conclusion statements in further depth. Happy writing!